Hey guys, it's Charlie with Wyoming Militaria here. Sitting here at 11 o'clock, November 11th, the 11th day, the 11th month, the 11th hour. Wanted to do a video talking about the significance of this day. 105 years ago on this day, an armistice was signed, a ceasefire to the hostilities of a war that at that time was the most deadly war that had ever been waged. It started in Europe with the assassination of the Archduke of Austria, led to Austria going up against Serbia to punish, and then the Russians fell in behind Serbia, the Germans fell in behind Austria, the French joined in, the Germans went to invade France to stop England from joining, and before you knew it, the world was in this terrible exchange of fire like they had never seen. Everybody joked, oh, the war will be over by Christmas. It was a common joke amongst the soldiers that they didn't say which Christmas, as it came to find out. Anyways, what I got here today, because we do like to talk about objects, I have an ashtray made out of an artillery shell. Stuff like this is commonly called trench art, although you can see that this was done with some level of skill and tool, so definitely likely not done in a trench, but rather probably a factory. It does say peace, November 11th, 1918. Around the world, this day is still known as Armistice Day, Remembrance Day, things of that sort, to remember the war and what happened. In the U.S., they've changed it to Veterans Day, but I always feel it's very important to remember the significance of this day. To put it into perspective, what this looked like for the world, I do have a few photographs kind of to show some of the landscape. I mean, there's a city, you can see shell holes in the buildings, you can see the ground tore up, obviously some gruesome stuff. Here, I mean, there was a high price to be paid on both sides. To put it in perspective, there's an estimated about 20 million people that were killed in World War I. To put it in relation to the total population of the world at that time, that's a little over 1%. There were a lot of countries, a lot of people not involved, though. To put it country by country, the breakdown varies. Some countries lost 3-4% or more of their population. So the end of hostilities meant peace. You know, a peace finally, that there was a sentiment among soldiers that the war would only end when there was no one left to fight, when everybody was dead, when they couldn't find anyone to throw in the front lines anymore. That was the consensus. And, you know, the stopping of the fighting in Europe, that's some of what the Great War meant to Europe. What the Great War means to America is a little bit different. Some of the things that we don't think about today. In the Spanish-American War, the U.S. kind of started to emerge onto the global scene. It had some territory it had conquered from Spain. It had engaged a foreign military power abroad. But really, the U.S. was still viewed as kind of a, well, I suppose like we would view Belize or something today. It's just there. Nobody really cared about it. It wasn't as significant. Anything, really. During the Civil War, it would blow people's minds to know that American manufacturers sold their goods oftentimes for less than European manufacturers, because having something that was American made is like today's equivalent of saying, oh, look at this, I bought something that was made in Taiwan. It wasn't viewed with the quality, it wasn't viewed with respect like it is today. And likewise, the U.S. wasn't really viewed as a respected power yet, a global power yet. There was calls to enter the war on both sides, and there was cause for the U.S. to enter the war on both sides. But the U.S. having gone through the American Civil War only only little over 50 years before, it was still in living memory, and the wounds were still fresh in a lot of people's minds. There was still the hatred of the Yankees, and people looking down on the Southerners, and there was still this North versus South, even though hostilities had ended. When the U.S. finally entered the war on the side of France and Great Britain, joining the Allies, it was brought on by unrestricted submarine warfare, the Germans sinking American merchant ships, and it was brought on by the Zimmermann telegram that Germany was trying to get Mexico to invade the United States, and that way they could detract and keep the U.S. occupied and keep them busy trying to fight their own war instead of selling goods abroad. Countries like England's an island nation. They were highly dependent on different shipments of goods, even down to food, from the United States to keep going. So when the U.S. ended up coming out on top in the war, it signaled a new era for the U.S. The U.S. was all of a sudden a global player. And I've got some other pictures I want to show here real quick that I forgot to pull out of a piece of history that kind of is unique here. Sorry, you guys get a look at my ugly carpet. These are some pictures also in my collection. President Woodrow Wilson in France. After the war, he came to France to broker peace, to broker the treaty. Now, Wilson was the first. There's some other photos in here that were taken off the same camera roll. They weren't all Wilson. But Wilson was the first. There's the photographer right there. Wilson was the first American president to go to France. And he didn't just go to France on vacation. He didn't go to France to preach for some, stupid foreign aid bill. I mean, he went over there to broker the future of the world. Strangely enough, Wilson didn't support the Treaty of Versailles. It wasn't ratified in the United States. They felt that the conditions placed upon Germany were so harsh that all it would do was signal another war. Post-war Germany, I read somewhere, it took a wheelbarrow of banknotes to purchase bread. There were wealthy families, wealthy German families, that were actually prostituting their daughters out for food. Situations were dire, which ended up leading to the Second World War. There was actually a congressman from the U.S. that made the claim that the Treaty of Versailles was a declaration of a war not yet waged. But anyways, I got a little off topic there. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the significance of Armistice Day, and today we know it as Veterans Day, but it's something that I feel that we should always remember, and we should, like I said, as a world, it meant that peace was here finally, that a generation, what was left of it, had a chance to live and survive. It wasn't going to be the annihilation of a generation. To America, it meant that all of a sudden it went from just another country to a superpower. It put us on the global stage, and it put us there in a big way. Anyways, hope you guys are having a great day. Just take a few minutes to remember what happened on this day 105 years ago. I appreciate you guys watching. Remember to like the videos, follow the page, or subscribe to the channel, however you're watching us. I hope you're having a great day. Happy Armistice Day.